Hello guys and welcome back. In this video I wanted to show you guys how to create something a bit more advanced, and we're going to create a pillar that starts off as a square and we can blend shape that it into a circle in anywhere we want along its height. So we can have a base that is square, and as it starts going up we can change it to a circle. So I'm going to create a geometry and I'm going to create a grid, and I'm going to start with a square basically. So I'm going to change this to 2 by 2, and I'm not interested in this primitive. I only want the a line, a square in a line form. So I'm going to create a carve node which does that. It takes any geometry, basically converts it into edges, but this is a primitive, so we're good here. So we have 5 points. The reason for it being 5 not 4 is because one of these guys is one of the section is open, and that's fine. Yeah, so it's open here and that's fine. So I'm going to create a resample node. I want more points, and let's take a look at the points, view their numbers, and let's reduce this amount. So it's 40, it's 1, 2, 3, so it's incrementing clockwise, which is great. So let's set this to 0.5. Okay, maybe a bit more, 0.3, so we have more points. And what we need to do for this to work properly is we need to be able to convert this into a circle. And for that we're going to use some math. So I'm going to create a point VOP. We're going to use a sine and cosine function, and you don't have to really know a lot about math for this to work. There's other ways we can make this work as well, but actually maybe I should do it. Yeah, we're going to use sine and cosine. So in here each point has a number, and that is available under this point number here. So let's create a cosine function. Let's connect this point number, and let's plug it into P. You can see we're getting this straight line here. So what I want to do is I want to create a new coordinate for these points that is based on the input geometry. We forget about its position. So I'm going to create a sine function, and I'm going to use the sine to set the x coordinate, and I'm going to use the cosine to set the z coordinate. And I'm going to create a float to vector, and what this allows me to do is the vector is made off of 3 floats, x, y, and z. With this node I can specify which one is the x, which one is the z. So I'm going to specify the x and the z, and this is going to be my position. And you can see now we're getting something circular, but it's repeating a lot. And the reason for that is because the point number here is going from, where is it? Is going from 0 to 135. So we need to divide this number, so we get a value that goes from 0 to 1 instead of 0 to 135. So I'm going to create a divide by a constant. I'm going to divide this guy, and let's use it here. And you can see it says a warning here is because the reason this is happening is because we cannot divide an integer, and this is an integer, so we need to convert an integer to float. So you see it's blue and now it's green, and I'm going to divide by 135, and now we have less than the circle, so we have an arc. Now let's play with this value until we get the circle that we need. Could be half, sorry. Cool. So now we've moved all the points to form a circle. Okay, great. Let's put this aside and take a look at the square that we had. Now this is the original input geometry, and this is after the deformation using the sine and cosine. Let me make this bigger so it's somewhat similar to this in terms of scale. Okay, and I'm going to create a blend shape. And a blend shape is going to blend shape between two input geometries. So I connected the square on the first one and the circle on the second one. And let's blend shape. And you can see it's changing to that circle. Now you can see there's this flip here happening, and the reason for that is because the order of the points is not correct. So let's find a way to fix that. I think this is going to work. It's going to be interesting. We need to fix the blend shape because, as you can see, it's doing that, but it could be very, very interesting. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of doing it on just one point, we're going to do it on multiple points. Okay, so let's do this. Let's copy and transform, and this allows us to duplicate the geometry and apply some offset. So I'm gonna make 20 copies with a small offset, maybe 2. Cool. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay, now we have a copy of the 2. So let's create another blend shape and blend shape between these guys. Let's see what we get. Awesome. So all we have to do now is blend shape between the two as they get higher. Okay, or along the height. So let me increase this actually to 40 by 40, and let's set this to 1 and 1 here so we have more repetition. And I'm going to create a point VOP. I'm going to connect this as the first input and this guy as the second input. Let's take a look. Now we are reading the position of the first input, which is this guy, and we want to import the point attribute from the second input, and for that we're going to use a import point attribute, and we want to read the input of the second we want to read the position of the second input. And let's connect the result now. You can see now it's pointing to the circles. We can create the blend shape here. So I'm going to create a mix node, and let's connect P and the result, and let's take a look. Now we're mixing between the two. Okay, we just have to figure out that that blend shape thing, but this is the blend shape in a point VOP. Well, this is great because we can use the height of these points to control how much blend shape is happening. Okay, so let's create a vector to float, and this is going to split a vector x, y, and z into 3 floats. So we're interested in the height. Let me disconnect this, and I'm connecting the height to the color. You can see it starts black here and then white at the top. So let's take a look at the colors. So it's a CD attribute, and it goes from 0 to 39. You can click to sort by order on any of the sections here. Cool. So let's fit range, and what this is going to allow us to do is, instead of this value going from 0 to 40, we're going to basically normalize it or fit it between 0 and 1. So the old range is 0 to 39, and the new range is 0 to 1. And we have a linear value that starts 0 here and 1 here. And I'm going to use that to drive the blend shape. And now you can see the box is blending into this. Cool. And what we can do is, instead of this linear guy, we can add a ramp node to control, to modify this. And I just created a head tab, created a ramp node. I'm gonna go up, and you can see it now. Now, you guys may be wondering what's happening with all these guys. How I'm gonna create a geometry? Well, it's actually very simple. You can use a skin node, and this basically takes all the curves and create the geometry between them. It's like a loft, and you can see now we have a square transforming into a circle, and it's using this. What if we want the square to come back again at the top? Well, it's very easy. We just have to move this point here, and we need to set this to black. And you can see now it's transforming from a square into a circle. If we want to have the circle being present longer, we can just add another white point by clicking and moving. And you can see now we're creating this very interesting shape. Now that part I'm gonna look at how to fix. I think rotating it should fix it. Yeah. So rotating this blend shape so that the points, let me do it here, so that the points are properly transforming. Cool, so you can see now it's better. And let's go back here, and we have a circle. And we can also change the blend fall off, so we can change it to catmull, which generates a different values. And you can see the shape here is changing. And the cool thing, we can increase the number of points. So let's say I'm going to copy this and paste values here, so I only have to change one. I'm going to copy this, I'm going to change it here as well, and let's change it to 80, and the value is 0.1, 0.5, but we have more divisions now. So what we can do is we can start changing these colors in. So I made one there, and let's go here. You can just click, and that will add a color, and I'm gonna change it to white to create this circle completely, or maybe something like that. Okay, and let's go here, like it that way, and let's change this maybe to have some rounded shape, something like that. Let's create some more, and you can click this. Sorry, you can scale this to be able to control this better. So let's change this there, and we can also change the scale, but we can keep this shape but move it in. But I don't want to overcomplicate things more than what it is already, so I'm gonna leave it at that. The last thing we could do is we can add something cool to all these guys. Here I'm gonna go, hopefully this is going to work. I'm gonna group this, and with the group we can run sorry, not this. So we can group node by expressions, and this is going to select the points if this condition is true. So I'm going to create a group by range, and let's take a look at this guy, and I'm going to set it to points, and let's see, change this to 2, and now it's selecting every other points. It's not selecting all the points, and we can change this. You can see it's skipping 4 points. Okay, so let's try this, and I'm going to create a soft transform. Let's copy this, and with this soft transform, I'm going to tell it to, I'm going to call these points center, And this soft transform, I'm going to tell it to only move the points that are in group called center. And that would be these guys. So if we go here and let's take a look, let's scale them in. You can see it's affecting all the points. Now that guy is because we have an open arc. So I think we can fix that quickly by using a fuse node. And this is going to fuse all the points. So let's see if that works. Cool, so that works. Let's take a look here. Okay, so we got rid of that. It basically fused the points. Now the cool thing with the soft transform is that you can control the radius of how much it affects the neighboring points, because it runs a soft transform. It has a fall off. Let's copy that and let's take a look now. Cool, so now we have this pattern repeated. I can increase this to have less repetition, and that's basically moving the points less, creating this. And I can also control the shape of them. So I'm going to right click, go properties, parameter, and this is going to give me a floating tab. I'm going to set it to always on top, and this way I can view this result, and I can also tweak this at the same time. So I can do this, and we can play with this guy as well. It controls the shape of the fall off if we needed further control. It's not very visible because we don't have a lot of points to work with. And let's reduce this bit. Something like that. Cool. And let's see, maybe we scale this up. It's too much. I don't want the dent to be very visible. Something like that. And maybe 10. Yeah. 10 is good. And the last thing is I want to create a twist to this. So I'm going to create a twist node. And I'm going to tell it to twist along the Y axis. And let's increase the strength. You can see it's rotating the geometry. Cool. Now, I like this twist. I really like the details that we have here, but I don't want it to I don't want it to be happening across the entire mesh. So what we can do is we can take this position and store it into a custom attribute before we deform it. Okay, so I'm going to create a wrangle node. Actually, I'm not going to create a wrangle node. I'm going to create a rest node. And what this does, it's going to copy the point position into an attribute called rest. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet. You can see the points are the same. Cool. And now we can run the twist node. Great. Let's create a point VOP. Copy this. I'm going to dive inside this guy. I'm going to copy all these 3 nodes, all these 4 nodes. I'll explain why in a second. I'm going to come in here, and I want to import that rest attribute. The way to do that is using a bind node. So I'm going to create a bind and type in the name rest. And we have to make sure that the type is set correctly. And this is going to import this new attribute. It's not available here. It's a custom thing. So this is how we import it. And I can connect the rest back. You can see it's overriding all the position, but I don't want all the positions, but I don't want that. I want to blend shape between the two. So let's create a mix. Let's mix between this and this, and now we have this is the result, and now we're mixing between the two. Let's paste that transform, the blend shape that we had, which uses the height, and I'm going to use this control here to control how much blend shape is happening. Now obviously the rest, the twist is moving the points a lot. Maybe, yeah, it's twisting the geometry, so it's tricky, but yeah, it's rotating the points a lot. So let's try just something subtle. And let's go back in and only have it happen at the center. So I'm going to set this to white and black on both sides so it doesn't affect the other parts. And let's increase the twist. Sorry, it's the other way. So we'll invert the inputs. So this is the original. Sorry. Like that. And let's move this. Cool. So the blend is happening only at the center. And let's increase the twist and see what happens. Oh, it's still affecting the other. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to swap this. I'm going to swap this with this. I hope this is it. Cool, so it's only happening at the center, yeah. And we can move it. And now we have some twist added to this pillar. I think that's pretty much it. This is just an idea to create some kind of pillars, if you guys wanted to, that transforms from a square into a circle at any point in along the y-axis. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.